Today we're going to put together the quintessential mascot of Easter, Mr. Easter Bunny. And we've got a 3D egg-shaped Easter Bunny, almost in the style of the turkey that we released last Thanksgiving, which so many of you loved. So let's take a look at what we have here in front of us. As usual, what I'd like to do is just begin by putting together some of the more simple things here. For instance, we have the little foot, and what you want to do is you want to grab the back layer and then the front layer, which we've cut out of a glitter. I've also inked it with a nice lavender or purple. And you'll notice that at the bottom here that it only fits, this piece will only fit on this piece. You can see that there's a few little extra little fur ruffles there. So you want to make sure that you get the right piece for the right piece and get that glued into place. So let's begin by just kind of doing some pre-assembly on some of the little parts of our little bunny. Okay, so we get the foot nice and ready here. This foot is going to be actually pop dotted or foam squared onto the actual body of our bunny. So let's get the other one done here. I'm just putting glue on the back and adhering it to the, what I'll call the shadow layer. Okay, there we go. Just get that right in place. Make sure you've got it nice and lined up. And push that down. Okay, so there are our two little feet. And when you put them on, just make sure that the additional little ruffles here are this way. So this is his left foot, this is his right foot. I guess when it's facing you, this is left, this is right. Now let's take a look at our little ears here. And you'll notice that at the bottom of each of the main white pieces, we've done this in a glitter. We've got a little tab. This tab, you don't want to glue this together. This is going to be to anchor this to the actual head or the top part of our little bunny body. Okay, so one other thing too is you want to go ahead and give this a slight valley fold. And we're going to glue it like that because the ears kind of bend like that. Okay, so we're going to glue this into place here, and then we're going to put the top layer on, just making sure that you don't do anything with that little bottom tab. Okay, so let's go ahead and get our glue on this piece here. Try to get it out to the edge as best as you can. And get that in place. You can actually push it down flat now that we've sort of creased it a little bit. And then once you do glue it down, crease it back up just so that it kind of stays that way. We want it to be folded like this so his ears aren't just flat. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing here. We want to go ahead and make sure that we are creasing at the score mark here, just folding. Okay, and that's going to go on top here. Again, make sure you do not put any glue on that tab there. So let's get our glue on this guy here, all the way around, and get him in place. Just make sure that everything matches up nicely. There we go. And again, we can put this down flat briefly to help us with the gluing, but then don't let it sit too long, and then crease it back so that we have a nice fold like this. Okay, and then these are going to slide through the top and get adhered to the inside of our little base, the top. So let's take a look at that one more time. And again, I'm going to start by giving this a nice fold and fold that back and fold that up. Let's get our glue in there. Okay, And again, make sure you fold this guy in half. Pop that right in and match it up nicely. I'm going to push it down flat and then immediately bring it back like that. Okay. And again, this little tab here, just make sure that you fold that up and then fold this in half. I'm using a glitter here, so I'm going to look on the back part so I can see where the score lines are. Sometimes they disappear on the little glitter pieces. Okay, let's get our glue on the other ear and get that adhered. Just like that. Should just drop right into place. There we go. Make sure you've got that nice and lined up precisely. And that looks great. Okay, so our ears and our toes are ready to go. So we can kind of put those off to the side and let them really get a good hold. These are the panels for the front of our little bunny here. Okay, so we can put those off to the side. We don't need those right now. A couple more little things that we can sort of pre-assemble. There's a beautiful little carrot here. We've got this cut out, the front layer, out of almost like a glittery cardstock. It's not actual glitter, but it's got a cool little sheen to it. Okay, and that is going to go right on to this piece here. Just make sure you get that nice and lined up correctly. There we go. Push that down. And then we have the little greenery piece. And we're going to glue that. That's going to go flush on that top part, so you're not going to see any border at all. Okay, so let's get that lined up. And I also inked this with I believe it was a turquoise color or a darker green. Either one will work. There we go. Okay, carrot is good to go. Now let's take a look at, we have a little butterfly here. Okay, now we've got two little center pieces for the butterfly. And what we're going to do is we're going to fold the wings in half, like that. And we're going to glue these yellow pieces onto the wings. They're little accent pieces. And just get that right in place, like so. And same with the other side here. Get that in place. And then we're actually putting the little butterfly on a wire so that he's kind of buzzing around above our little bunny. Buzzing around above our bunny. Okay. And then you can go ahead and flatten this out now. We've got the little wings on there. What we're going to do is I took some wire and I used the dowel to kind of curl it and make it look kind of whimsy. And we're going to pop that right on the back there. You can use some hot glue if you want. I think I can get away with using just standard glue. I've done this before and it tends to hold fairly well. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put glue on the back side of this guy. And we're going to sandwich this wire. I'm putting the wire right in the glue. And then I'm taking this piece and I'm going to match up the little antennae and just push that down and really just hold it in place until that glue sets nicely for us. You may need to kind of pinch around the wire to get some of that paper to actually hit and reach the glue that's there, but that's totally fine. This is going to be on the back. No one's really going to see this unless they really, really look. Okay, and then we've got a special little place that we're going to put this guy. There we go. I may need to put a little extra glue on top of that wire as well to get that paper to stick. There we go. Okay, just be patient, let that set. Actually, you know, what we can do is just kind of put it off to the side. But that's what that's going to look like, and we can kind of tweak this a little bit more once this is fully set, and maybe have them flying at a little angle, and we'll pull the wings forward a little bit as well, or actually bring them back. But let that set so that it dries nicely for us. Okay, and we can actually construct our little bow here as well. So what I want you to do is make sure you grab a dowel so that we can kind of train this a little bit, because we are going to fold it, and I don't want it to just completely crease. It'll look very unsightly. So let's kind of train this a little bit so that it's semi-round and we don't risk bending it completely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put glue right in the center here, just a nice little drop of glue, and take this little section here. You don't actually need to bend this. It's more of a guide. And just make sure that you're lining that up right in the center, and just hold that in place until it sets. This paper is very porous, so it should kind of set pretty quick, and it did. So, and add one more drop of glue right in the center, and then just bring the other side over right in the center, and push and hold that down as well. Try not to crease the paper too much. Okay, there we go. Okay, so that is the beginnings of our little bow. We've got this little piece here. We're going to use that to kind of wrap around. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, that is going to be the front of my bow. I think it's a little more round, so I'm going to decide on that. I'm going to put a little drop of glue on the back here, and I'm going to start with this like that. Just going to glue that on there, and then I'm going to wrap it around. I should have been a little more patient with that. Get that glued down. Just hold it for a second. Let that set. And then we're going to wrap it around the front here, like so. And get that very centered. I might actually pull that off and try it one more time. I want it to be a little more centered. And there is a live boo-boo. And I'm not afraid to show you that, because that's what happens sometimes. And you shouldn't feel intimidated, because things don't always go as planned. Just work through it, and eventually it'll all come together. Okay, so at that time I got it on nice and straight. I'm going to put a little drop of glue here on this side, so that as I wrap this around, I have just enough little area there to get that glued into place as well. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of hold that until it sets, and then we've got a cute little tail that we're going to put on this as well. There we go, that looks really cute. And then we're going to take our tail, and while I have it, I'm going to curl it backwards a little bit, just to give it a little dimension. Okay, and I'm going to pop a little bit of glue on the back of this and get that glued into place. Try to make sure it's nice and straight, nice and centered, and just give it a good squeeze. Okay, there we go. We got ourselves a cute little bow. It's going to go on top of his head. There we go. Okay, put that off to the side, let that set. Now with that said, what we can go ahead and do is, there's a series of eyes, cheeks, and eye parts, and hair, and a mouth. We're going to leave that for later. We also have some little arms. Okay, we don't need to do anything with those yet. And we also have a little tail. And we did this in a glitter. Again, that was inked with a lavender. I'm going to get my Zots for this because I think it'll hold better on the glitter. And we're going to pop dot these together to form his little bushy little tail. So that is the base piece. I'm going to flip this one over and get some Zots on here. These are 3D dots. I'm going to do 3 of them on this one. Okay, and then just place that nice and center on this. You can match up the little scallops there if you want. I'm looking at the center scallop here, and then I'm finding another scallop here, and just kind of eyeballing that, making sure that it's nice and centered. There we go. Okay, and one more time on this part of the tail. These are really sticky. Okay, and again, just get that nice and centered. That looks about right. There we go. We got a cute little tail. That's going to go on the box once it's completely assembled. Speaking of which, we can go ahead and begin putting together the actual box itself. The rest of it is going to be just kind of putting things together. So let's take a look here. Now you'll notice we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces like this. And let me take a look here real quick. We have also 6 pieces like this. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, 2 of them have little slits, and as you may have guessed, that is where our ears are going to go. These pieces are little overlay panels to help create a more round look for the top part of our box. These are overlay panels for the bottom of the box. Okay, so depending on which one we start with, that's what we're going to use. I'll probably start with the bottom of the box. And then also, we have this piece here, these 2 pieces here, and these are the main structure of the top of the box. Okay, so it's nice because they're kind of together, and it'll make that go together a lot quicker. And then here we have the main structural pieces for the bottom of our egg-shaped box. Okay, and then this little piece is a liner, so we're going to need that. And this piece here is the little cap for the top of the box, and it has a little X cut through it, and that is to help you more easily get your little butterfly through there. Okay, and then we're going to actually sandwich that in between the 2 layers on top to make that stick like that. Okay, you can hot glue it. Probably prefer you hot glue it, but regular glue should work as long as the paper bonds. Okay, so with that said, what we're going to do is begin by taking these pieces here, and I want to go through and I want to make sure that I fold everything nicely at the score marks. In some instances, maybe both ways, back and forth. Okay, and the reason for that is doing this is actually going to make the assembly a lot easier, because if you don't fold these at the score marks, the paper is going to kind of fight you, and then it won't take its shape, its intended shape, which is what we want. It's an egg shape. Now this main structure is a little boxy version because, well, you can't really, well, I guess you can design things in paper that are round, but that is a level of difficulty that I wouldn't even put on a grandmaster of paper crafting. Using little boxy pieces like this initially will, and does, and has done for a long time, made construction of items like this so much easier. Okay, so just make sure that everything at the score marks is kind of flexible and easy to work with. Okay, then let's do the same thing with this other one, because what we're going to do is we're going to connect these 2 pieces and make them all one piece while we begin the construction of everything here. So again, just go through and fold everything nicely at the score marks. Can't really stress the importance of making sure that you folded everything at the score marks here. And it's just going to make everything so much easier to put together. So be sure you do that. Okay, so let's just line this up like this. Okay, so what we're gonna do, as I mentioned, is we're gonna join these two pieces together. And I think it's best to start at the bottom here. So we're about to embark on a very Zen-like process here where we're going to be just gluing a lot of little pieces together and being patient while they dry. I'm going to hold it like this. It's going to make it easier for me. And it's just very important that we're matching up the pieces here and getting the correct angles so that everything goes smoothly for us. And it may help to kind of have this at a 90-degree angle when you're initially getting these two little pieces to bond. Okay, so just kind of hold that in place, let that set. We're dealing with some really small tabs, so it should go pretty quick from piece to piece. And before you know it, we'll be done. It's just kind of a repetitive little process, but totally worthwhile because we're almost done with our project here. Okay, so just kind of give that a squeeze. And you can fold this next little tab out, get your glue on there, get it right out to that edge there. And again, you know what, with this, because we're going to be using some panels to cover this up, if you get a little extra glue that pops out, it's not the end of the world, but the most important thing is that you get the angles right. Okay, just follow the natural little angles there, and before you know it, we'll be done. And you can go to your favorite little gourmet grocery store or candy shop and fill this thing up with a bunch of little goodies. There we go. All right, so one little section done. This part here, those are already connected, so there's very little work to be done there. But we can go ahead and work either way, it doesn't matter where. We've got a small little tab here, and we're just going to tuck that under and glue that to this piece here. Okay, this is going to be where my hand is right now, is the opening for the bottom of our box. So the top is going to go right here. Okay, just hold that in place. It's a small little tab, but it holds nicely, and this as well is a small little tab, but it will hold nicely. You just got to get enough glue on there. We'll tuck that under, get it lined up, and just push and hold that in place. It's plenty of surface area there to hold this thing together nicely while minimizing the amount of work. Let me redo that. I kind of rushed a little bit there. That's what you don't want to do with this. You want to just take your time and let that really set before you move on. Give it a good squeeze to help that glue penetrate into the little fibers of the paper before you move on. Okay, we can pull that back, get our glue on the next little tab here, get it right out to the edge, and just tuck that back under and get that aligned here nicely. Give it a good squeeze. There we go. Okay, moving right along to this little section here. Let's get our glue on this tiny little tab here and tuck it under. Make sure you've got it nice and lined up, and then just hold it and squeeze it between your fingers until it sets. Just like that. Next little tab here. Don't overdo it with the glue, because that's when it takes longer for it to set. So less is more in this case. Just make sure that you get it nice and aligned. And I'm kind of applying a downward pressure here, and I've got my finger on the inside pushing up. So I'm kind of using my fingers to sandwich the paper between them. Okay, just be patient. There we go. Pull that back a little bit. And let's get our glue on this next tab here. And again, make sure that you've creased all the little score marks there, okay? Because that's just gonna make this a lot easier to assemble. Get it nice and aligned. Squeeze it between your fingers. Let it set. And well, we're really moving and grooving here. There we go. Okay, now we can kind of come over here now. Just figure out the best way to hold this in your hand. I think I'm going to hold it like this. And get glue on this next little tab here at the bottom. Line it up nicely. Make sure you've got the correct angle there and give it a good squeeze. Just be very patient with that. And then we can kind of fold this back and get glue on this next tab. Make sure you have it folded. Again, less is more. Nice and aligned. Give it a squeeze. And hold. There we go. I'll keep holding that while I peel this back and get my glue on this last little tab here. There we go. Just kind of clean that off and get that aligned. So again, this is a very Zen-like process, very repetitive. So as you go, it should get better, it should get easier. Now I didn't get my glue all the way out to the edge on that one, so I'm going to paint it a little bit. I'm just going to use my X-Acto because it's handy. I shouldn't, because then it gets kind of globby, but just a little area in here that I didn't get enough glue. So I'm just going in there and touching that up a little bit so that we get a nice clean seam all the way around. Okay. All right, so I've got two more sections here to kind of glue together. Well, this section and the final section to close the shape up. Okay. So again, just make sure you've got it nicely aligned. Take your time. Do your best. That looks good. Let's pull this up. Move it out of our way. Getting glue on the next smaller tab here. And get that aligned. Let me move this little hexagon out of the way. This little section here should be big enough to where you can get your whole hand in there and use your thumb as your little pressure point on these pieces. Okay, now let's move this out of the way for a second and get our glue on this last tab here. Just make sure you get that glue all the way out to the edge. Okay, and line it up nicely. Now see, if you don't go through and really fold everything at the score marks, it tends to give you a fight a little bit, and then it doesn't take on the right shape, which is really important because when we go to put the little panels on, they may not fit properly if you don't get the actual base of this constructed correctly. Okay, so now we're just going to join this together to form one solid piece, and it doesn't matter where you start. You can start at the top, start at the bottom. I'm just going to start at the top and get that piece nice and aligned. I'm going to hold it this way so I can see it better. And give that a squeeze. Make sure the top is nice and flush. And again, keep in mind, that's what I tell our customers all the time, that this isn't like an exact science sometimes, because we are human, and well, it can be a little difficult sometimes to be perfect at this. Okay, so you know what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to grab a scrap piece of paper. This is the prototype bow, and I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on this to use to put a little bit of glue on the surface of this. Actually, probably a little more than that. You can try to get your glue or your glue nozzle in there, but I kind of like this method. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take and I'm going to paint glue on this section here. Just going to paint the glue on there like this, so that when I take this little tab, I don't risk pulling it back too much and pulling it apart, because we're joining this together to make it one solid piece. Unless you've got like a really thin glue bottle tip, it may be hard to get, well, it's pretty difficult to get this nozzle in there and make it accurate and not go crazy with the glue. So I kind of like to do things that way, where I just kind of paint the glue. And it's just more accurate and less messy, and you're less likely to create any inadvertent damage to your project. Just kind of painting that glue right towards the edge there, and then taking my little tab and adhering it nicely. There we go. Beautiful. And that just leaves one more little tab, and we'll close up the bottom and give this thing a chance to really rest and set before we put our panels on it. And getting to the bottom of my bottle here. That kind of sounds like a country song. Okay, again, just painting the glue on the underside of this, and then I'm gonna get rid of some of that excess, and just attaching the tab now. There we go. Perfect. That is a perfect assembly, in my eyes anyway. Maybe it could have been a little more perfect, but looking at it, I'm very happy with the result. Okay. And then again, what we're going to do is we're going to close this up. And we do have to do this in one shot here because, well, just because of the nature of the piece, we're kind of closing it up. So I just have to do that. And I'll show you here. If we can't get it all in one shot, you can always go back in and use that little painting technique that I just used to close it up nicely. You really want to make sure that you get that glue right out to the edge,
so it closes beautifully. Flare these tabs up a little bit so that as we push this down, it grabs more of that surface area of the little hexagon. Okay, now because this is a hexagon, you may have to kind of nudge things around a little bit to get it to take the correct shape. And you know, one little side might be a tiny bit off or something. I wouldn't worry too much about it. This is going to be the base. We're going to put panels on it. It's going to be covered up nicely. But that actually turned out pretty darn good. There we go. Look at that. Okay, hold that in place. I'm going to flip this around, and I'm going to take my dowel and just push down on these tabs here in the little areas that I wasn't able to get to. All right. Beautiful. Now we have a little liner piece, and that's going to kind of make this a little more sturdy. I'm going to take my glue and just kind of dab it onto the actual tabs inside there, and then a little bit in the center. We'll drop this in there and just push that down. And that's going to give us a nice sturdy base for our little bunny. Okay, all right, so that is what that looks like. Almost looks like a little honeycomb or something. All right, so now that we have that, what we can go ahead and do is grab our little panels here, okay? And with these panels, what we're gonna do is we're gonna probably start at the top or the bottom and glue the top part on. We're not actually gonna put any glue in the center, so we're just gonna glue the tops and the bottoms like that to give it like a nice round appearance. Okay, so we can go ahead and get started with our little panels here. And as I mentioned, the most important thing that we're going to need to do here is just to make sure that we get the top and bottom nicely glued on. Okay, so let's start by getting glue up on this tab here, and just be very sparse with the glue. Don't make it too thick, and definitely get it right up to that very edge there. Okay, and take this piece, line it up nicely, get it nice and centered, and just hold that in place and make sure it sets nicely. Okay, there we go. I'm starting at the top here because I want the top of the box to be nice and level and even. Okay, and then what we're going to do is just wrap this around, and it should meet the bottom pretty much dead on. Okay, so let's just put a little bit of glue on the bottom here. You don't need a lot, and you don't need to fill that whole section up. Just need a little bit, just so that bottom stays in place. And just line it up nice and precisely so that it terminates right at the base of this piece here. Okay, just hold that in place and let that set. There we go, just like that. Okay, now you see, now we've taken a boxy shape and turned it into a nice smooth surface. Okay, so that's pretty much as round as it gets when it comes to paper crafting. Okay, there we go. And be very patient with that. Just make sure that the bottom doesn't come unglued. Let that set nicely before you move on to the next one. All right, speaking of which, I'm just going to repeat this process again on the next section, and it's going to end up looking something like that. Not perfectly round, but again, as far as paper crafts are concerned, I think this is roughly as good as it's going to get. All right, again, get that glue right out to the very edge. Try not to encroach onto the job that we just did on the last section there. Get that nice and lined up with the top. Make sure it's nice and centered. And just kind of squeeze that evenly. It might help to even just put it on your table and push down like that. That way everything is nice and level and flat. nothing's warped. I like that. I like that method actually. That works nicely. There we go. And then again, just a little bit of glue at the bottom. I would say maybe just a third of the way up on the bottom. That's all you really need. And then just spread that glue somewhat thin. Wrap it around nicely. Make sure that it terminates right at the bottom there. And hold that in place until it sets. And just be patient. Okay. And on to the next section. So you can go ahead and skip ahead if you want. Again, this is going to be pretty much a repetitive thing here until we get all these panels on. And then we can actually put one section of the bunny's body onto the front using that glitter piece that we have. Okay, but again, just make sure that you're getting it nice and centered and level at the top so that everything goes together nicely. And again, I'm going to put that on my surface and push down like that to get it nice and flat. That looks great. And I'm just going to repeat down here. Like I said, about a third of the way up is fine. You don't want to do more than that because then you'll lose that natural curve that we're after. Okay. And just wrap that around. And it should pretty much reach the bottom there. And kind of stretch it a little bit if it's not completely getting to the bottom, but it should. There we go. And just hold that. And again, you're just going to repeat this process 3 more times until we have all the pieces on there. All right, next one. Actually, wait a second. Oh, there it is. I thought we only had 5 for some reason, but we don't. All right, get our glue on there. Okay. Get that nice and aligned, nice and centered, nice and flush with the top. And that looks about right. I'll put that down and push. Okay. There we go. Oh, I kind of hurt my arm doing that. Okay. Again, right at the bottom. Let's just wrap that around. And there we go. That one fits beautifully. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Getting a nice curve on that. I think that's pretty much good. It's holding nicely. And there we go again. Right up to that top there. Nice and centered, nice and flush. There we go. Put it down, press. There we go. Beautiful. And back to the top. What happened here? There we go. Or the bottom, I should say. There we go. And perfect. Nice and centered. And just give that a little push, hold it until it sets. We've got one more little piece here, and then you can actually put his little chest in place. And then we're just gonna construct the top, and man, we're pretty much on the final stretch here, guys. So that is looking awesome. All right, last little section here. Right there. Okay, spreading that out right up to the top, right into the little corners there. Nice and centered, flush with the top there. That looks good. Put that down on my table and press. Okay. Beautiful. And our last piece fits like a glove. We're doing a really good job here, guys, with assembly on this thing. It's looking sharp. There we go. I'll just give that a few extra seconds to fully set. Okay, so there is the bottom of our little egg, our egg shape. Okay, now take a look at all the sides here and decide which side you think looks best. And I'm gonna go with this side. I like this side. Okay, we've got this little piece here that we're going to adhere to the front, and that is gonna be our bunny's, on the front of our little bunny. And this is actually gonna turn out really nice. Okay, so again, with this, we're just putting glue on just this top little section here. Okay, we don't need to put a whole ton of glue on this because we want that natural curve. Make sure you get that glue right out to the edge, right up to the top. Okay, and then let's take this piece and same thing, same concept. Get it nice and aligned, nice and centered. Okay, and hold that in place for a second. Make sure it's nice and flush up here. And then put that down on your surface and press. And there we go. Make sure that that stays nicely for us, and it does. And then we're gonna wrap this around, wrap this down like this. And we're just gonna put a little bit of glue on the inside of this part here. The little, my glitter piece. Yours might not be made of glitter, but mine is. And we're gonna get that glued down. Just make sure you get it all the way down to the little tip there of his chest. And I literally would just go about that far with the glue. Hopefully you can see how much glue I have there. I'm gonna spread that out just so that it's more even. Okay, and then just press and hold that down in place until it sets completely. And be patient with this. Okay. Looking good. Looking real good. Okay, so I'm not going to put the feet on just yet. I'm going to wait until the top of his body is all put together before I determine where his feet are going to go. I just want to make sure that I don't regret anything later on. Okay, so that looks good. Okay, so you can see how nice and round that looks, especially when you get the panels on there. There we go. We're gonna have little arms coming across there. Anyway, so that part's done. Let's put that off to the side just for now. And let's take a look at the top of our little box. And again, we're gonna be getting into our little Zen mode here. And I actually have some larger tabs on this, so it may be a little bit easier to work with. And I'm going to begin by gluing one piece to the other. I'm just going to put glue on this tab here, get it right out to the edge, and I'm going to join these two sides together, making sure that I have it at the correct angle there. And got it in the right spot. Actually, you know what might help is if you fold this over onto itself, it may be easier to get the alignment initially, because these two pieces should mirror each other. Okay, so hopefully you saw what I did there. I got that tab in place, but then I folded it over just to make sure that this was all symmetrical and just kind of right on top of the other piece. That way I know I've got it aligned perfectly. Okay, so let's move this out of the way and let's get the next tab in place here. Okay, get that glue out to the edge and line that up nicely. Just like that. Give it a good squeeze. All right, can move this out of the way. I'm kind of still adding pressure here while I'm gluing the next little tab. So I'm kind of doing two things at once just to speed up the process a bit. Get that at the correct angle as well. Okay, now this next tab here looks kind of funny, but it's designed specifically to make sure that it doesn't obstruct the little slit for our bunny's ears. Okay, so I'm going to pull this back. We are going to put glue on the entire tab. There we go, like that. Tuck that under and get that nice and aligned. Like that. Okay, now this part at the top here, that's for the little hexagon that's going to complete the top of it. We don't need to worry about that just yet. Now look at my mistake here. I didn't fold that. Okay, not a big deal, but make sure you get all your stuff folded. All right, so just going to kind of continue working here. I'm going to put glue on the next tab here, just like that. You can see that glue there on that tab. And just going to get that in place. Just make sure you're matching up the angle nicely. And be patient while that sets. I'm going to use 2 fingers here. It's kind of a long little tab. There we go. Let's pull that back and get our glue on our next little tab here. And get that aligned. So I think at this point it's pretty self-explanatory, so feel free to skip ahead if you've already gone through this, or feel free to pause me and put your music back on or whatever. But you know, it is now March 22nd here in Chicago, and despite the cold, I've been doing a lot of stuff to prepare my garden this year. It's kind of gone to hell the last 2+ years because life is going through some transitions, and just didn't have time to play in the dirt. And I've got 3 plots, one large one where I typically grow pumpkins, and then 2 smaller plots. I put tarps over 2 of them because they have just decided that they were going to grow the best weeds possible. And I just got discouraged, and I'm sure my neighbor didn't love waking up and seeing a whole bed of weeds. So I just covered them up, hoping to kill all the weeds, and then maybe try again next season with the larger plots. But I did keep one plot with my raised beds, and I've already gone out there and burned off all the weeds and tilled, power washed all of the actual cedar planks that create the raised beds, and I've added compost and topsoil. I've got seeds germinating. So I'm definitely ready for spring, even though they're saying, and my apologies to all of you on the East Coast with your nor'easters. I'm sure you guys are tired of winter already. Okay, so I'm gonna go over here now, and I'm gonna get these sections glued in place. So I've got this tab here. But anyway, speaking of gardening, I've met many wonderful dreamers through the group and just through email that are also avid gardeners, and would love to hear if you garden and if you have any tips for me. I think this year, right now, I just kind of decided that instead of getting crazy, I'm just going to grow the things that I typically buy when I go to the grocery store, and that's mostly peppers and tomatoes, some cucumbers and things of that nature. I've got tons of lettuce. I've actually already planted my lettuce seeds. I know it's a little early, but I figure you get them in the ground, when they're ready to come up, they'll come up. And I'm just pretending that it's 4 to 6 weeks before the last frost, even though something tells me it's not. But I've just been doing things lately to just kind of almost give winter a hint, and subliminally telling it that, hey, move on, go down to south of the equator now. We've had enough winter for maybe 2 years this year. It was much colder than previous winters. You could tell that by my heating bill. All right, so we're almost there. We've got one more section here to put together, and then we're going to close this up just like we did the last time on the bottom of the box. Okay, so let's just get that in place. And just be patient, hold it until it really sets. If you've got some excess glue there, just wipe it away. Okay, let's pull this back and let's grab our glue. Next tab. Beautiful. Tuck it under. And hold that. All right, last piece for this section. I gotta be more patient with that last piece there. So this is probably one of the more time-consuming aspects of, making 3D paper projects, but it's not hard. You just have to be patient, and you really have to pay attention and really focus all of your attention on the task at hand in order to do your best work. So my philosophy is that if you're getting really good at this and your 3D stuff is coming out beautiful and pristine and almost perfect, that tells me that you are really letting go of your daily stressors and things that kind of distract you, the daily distractions and the pressures and all that stuff. If you can just let that go, you will see it show through in your paper crafting, because that's what this really requires mostly, is just being observant and being present. And if you're not, then you may not do your best work. And if maybe initially, well, I mean, there's a part of it is also experience with this, but I think that kind of comes fairly quickly, especially once you realize how elementary, I guess, this process is. I mean, we're really just kind of gluing tabs together. So it's not rocket science. And once you realize that, I think the rest of it just kind of begins to flow better. All right, so I'm at the last leg here. I can try to get my glue bottle in there, but I know from experience that sometimes that ends up creating a mess for me. I've just got a scrap piece of paper here. It's an old bow, and this is the tail from it. So I'm just gonna throw some glue on the back of this tail, and I'm gonna use that to paint to the inside of the neighboring piece where the tab's gonna go. Okay, I'm just kind of painting the glue on there so I don't have to try to stick my nozzle in there. And I'm using that as my glue bottle for now. And it really helps me strategically place my glue where I want it and not have to worry about fighting with the paper ripping off or anything like that. So let's throw a little more glue on here. I just think I've used about a third of a glue bottle in the last day with these projects. All right, so let's slide that right under there and just paint that glue right along that edge. That's nice. And get that in place. There we go. And it's looking sharp. And last but not least, got one more little piece here. I may be able to actually, yeah, with this one I can actually get my glue bottle in there because it's right at the bottom. So I'm just gonna use that like that and close this bad boy up. Our bunny is almost born. There we go. All right. Beautiful. All right, so now, you know what, yeah, actually we can close up the top. That's fine, because we can always put our hand in through the other side to get the little ears in place. All right, so we're going to put glue on all these tiny little tabs. Now remember also, there's gonna be another piece that goes on top of this. You do wanna make sure that you get this closed as nicely as possible, but don't worry too much about obsessing about making it perfect. Just as long as we get it closed, I think that is the biggest task here. I'm gonna poke these up a little bit so that as I push this down, it grabs more of that surface area. And again, just do your best to kind of nudge things around so that we cover and get all of these little tabs to hold and grip this little piece here at the top. Again, we're gonna clean that up a little bit when we put that tiny little, when we put this piece on here eventually. Okay, so there'll be two of them, but that's fine. All right, so let's take a look here. And there you go, that fits on there nicely. We'll find the two sides with the ears. There we go. Okay, so we got our little egg shape. And of course, we're gonna put panels on this next. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so we can go ahead and do at this point is begin placing the little panels onto the top of our box. And we're literally on the home stretch here, guys. So let's start with the front. And just like we did with the base, I'm gonna start here. And we're only gluing just one little section. I wanna make sure you get that glue right up to the very top. Okay, and get that nice and centered. Like that. Make sure it's nice and centered, nice and flush with the top. I'm gonna put this down on my surface and push from the inside to make sure that the little, all the way up to the edge there, adheres nicely. Okay, that's good. And that added pressure will make it set more quickly. And then we just need a little bit of glue here up at the top. Okay, I'm gonna just kind of work that glue upward and right up to the top, and just hold that in place. Give it a few seconds to set. You can see how that looks. That looks good. Okay, and let's grab this piece here. You can see that this piece is going to go right over that little slit there. Okay, so let's start here and work our way down. Remember to get that glue all the way up to the very edge. Okay, nice and centered, nice and flush, like that. That looks about right. Let me put that down on my table and press. Get it right out to the edge here. Make sure you give the very corners here a little love so that you don't have anything peeling back, like so. That looks good. And then just a little bit of glue here at the top. I'm going to work it up, right up to the edge. And as we lay that over, it should fit exactly over that existing little slit there, and that's going to be for our ears. Okay, just hold that, and moving right along to the next one. And the fun part is about to begin, because we are going to give birth to a little Easter bunny. That's going to be fun. Okay. Again, get that nice and centered, flush with the top. Take a look, make sure you've got it aligned correctly. And once you do, and that side was a little up, put that down, press down. Give those little edges a little extra love there. And doing it this way, again, it's going to make sure that the tops there are really nice and crisp and straight. Because sometimes if you do this in midair, you kind of are denting the paper ever so slightly, and that looks a little unsightly. But our project is going to come out awesome. I bet I see lots and lots of little bunnies popping up in our Facebook group. If you're not a part of our Facebook group, I invite you to join. There's a lot of amazing paper crafters among the Dreaming Tree community, and they're constantly inspiring us. Facebook's been a little strange lately, and they've changed their algorithm, so it's really difficult to follow the businesses that you love to follow, like Dreaming Tree, unless you go to their page and specifically state that, hey, I want to see their content first. I have a couple companies that I follow, like Botanical Interests, the seed company, and I always see their stuff first because I tell Facebook that that's what I want. So, you know, as far as our main page goes, right at the top there's a little link that you can click on. It says, you know, show Dreaming Tree content first in my feed. But otherwise, like I said, I invite you to join our group. There's a lot more people posting. I mean, there's sometimes if I don't go in there for a couple days, there's literally 40, 50 projects that people have created in that time that they've posted to share with the community, and it's awesome. There's a lot of awesome stuff going on in there. So definitely pop in and take a look and join our little family. A lot of positivity and inspiration. All right, so we've got that piece on. Let's move over here. We've got two left. Okay. Again, just getting my glue right up to the top there and spreading that glue up all the way out. And let's get this nice and centered. Get it nice and flush. There we go. And I'm going to pop that down and press. There we go. Make sure you get that little right up to the edge there. And the other side. There we go. Get that glue right up to the edge. And press down. And hold. And that just leaves one more little piece here. And that's where the other ear is going to go. Okay, and as promised, we're almost at that point now where all this work we've done to prep everything is really going to pay off, and we get to just have some fun with placing things and really bringing our bunny to life. Right now, he's just kind of like a disassembled Mr. Potato Head, and we're gonna be little spring Dr. Frankensteins here. All right, so last piece here, let's get that nice and centered, nice in line, nice and flush with the top. I'm gonna pop that down on my table and press. My fingers are getting a little gluey here. That's okay though. Pretty much at the tail end of this assembly here. I'm going to hop on over to the next step here in a second. I don't know if you just caught those two puns there. Okay. I thought they were punny. All right, and last but not least, just make sure that when you lay this panel down that you're not obstructing that little hole for the ears to pop through, and just press that. Make sure that gets a good hold. And there we go. Okay, so let's take a look here. Let's take a look at our overall egg shape. Looks good. Okay, so at this point, what we can go ahead and do is I'm going to put the ears on last, I think, just so that we don't mess them up. So left ear, take that back. Left ear, right ear. So this is going to go right on the front like this. Okay, so we're going to glue that down just as we, okay, so the ears are actually going to be towards the back. We've got one panel, one panel, one panel. Ear panels are going back here. Okay, so let's get our glue on this piece here so that we can get our bunny's little body in place. And again, I'm working that glue right up to the very edge so that everything remains nice and consistent and flush. And let's get that nice and centered if we can. Nice and flush with the top. That looks good. I'm going to put that down on my surface and press. Okay. There we go. That works. And let's cover that up like so. Just put a little bit of glue right here at the top. And just spread that all the way out to the edge. Fold that over and push and hold briefly. Okay, and on this piece here, you will actually notice that we have some markers to help you with the placement of the rest of his little facial features. Okay, so that's how that should look. All right, guys, on to the fun part. Take a look here in the center of this piece here. There's two little indicators, and that is where the little nose and the mouth is going to go. Okay, so I'm going to pop some glue on the back of this. Now, this is cardstock on glitter, so we're going to need to be a little more patient with this section here to ensure that it gets a nice hold for us. Okay, so again, the little notches are going to go just underneath the nose and just on the outside of the little black section that leads up to the mouth. Okay, so this, since I'm gluing it on glitter, I'm going to need to just press this and hold it for a little bit longer than usual to ensure that it stays on there nicely for me. Okay, so that seemed to have bonded nicely. We've got some really small pieces here. One is for our nose. I'm going to go ahead and get that glued in. And this glue bottle is starting to get empty. I gotta find my little cup. All right, so let's get our nose in place. It's got a cute little pink nose. I did ink this with a little bit of a darker pink. A red would work as well. So let's get that in place. And I've got a cute little tongue for him. I guess that's his mouth. I don't think his tongue's sticking out. It's just, or maybe it is. I don't know. There we go. Tiny little piece. I'm going to grab my little pick-me-up tool to help me with that. So I get it right in the right spot there. Okay. I'll nudge that down just a tad. And just kind of dab some of this glue off. It's a little difficult to work with these little pieces, but you see the little bunny coming together now, and I'm pretty excited about it. While we let that kind of rest for a second, he's got a little bit of hair, and that's going to go right here. Okay, so let's put the hair in place. Okay, just get that glued right into place here. And again, I got to give this a little extra love because it's going on glitter. So I'm going to hold that in place for a few extra seconds. That's looking sharp. Okay, that looks good. Now, we're going to put his or hers eyeballs on here. And now there is a little marker for where the bottom little eyelash goes. And there's a little marker for where the eyelash goes, and there's a little marker that kind of shows you the contour of this little area here. Let me see if I can just show you that. This little area here where it begins to curve. There's a marker for that. So you place that top marker up against this, and the bottom marker up against this little eyelash. And you know what, I'm going to use my handy little pick-me-up for this because I'm starting to deal with some really small pieces here. Let me pull that out. And get my glue all around here. There we go. And just very carefully and precisely place this in place, like so, and just hold that down. If you're using a glitter like I am, again, just be a little more patient to allow that to set. This glitter isn't the best surface for gluing things to. Maybe there's other glues that work better, I'm not really sure. But I'm not really ready to try anything new right now. I'm pretty happy with my glue. Okay, so there's that. And then there is a tiny little piece, okay, for the eyeball that's going to go right there. Okay, so let's put a little glue on that piece. And then we've got some little eyebrows for a cute little bunny here as well. I went a little overboard on the glue on that one. Okay, and just place that right in the center. Like so. There we go. And let's grab the other eye. Again, you've got little markers there, just like on the side we just did. Oh boy. That's a lot of glue. It's okay, I'm just gonna dab it and work it around. That's fine. Okay, look for the other marker there. Okay, I had to kind of shove my face in there to see the little markers since the glitter makes it almost impossible to actually see the marks or the marks that we placed there for you. But that's fine. We're pretty much through decorating his face here. We're going to add a few little freckle looking things on his face here. I'll probably do that with some liquid pearls. Okay, let's get the other eyeball in there, and then I'll also use a white liquid pearl to finish up the eyeball, which I could probably show you that. I mean, you guys have probably used liquid pearls in the past. Okay, so our bunny is almost done. I've got some little eyebrows here that we got to add, and then we can call it a day on his face. I think we can start working on his little carrots. All right, let's get this first little eyebrow in place, just above the eye, like that. There we go. And grab the other one. Throw a little glue on there. Just a little tiny bit. And I'm just dabbing it to flatten it out so it doesn't come spilling over. Okay, hopefully you can see that. There we go. Look at that. So cute. Let's fix those eyebrows. Okay, great. All right, so we're going to adhere the carrots to roughly about here, okay? We're going to put glue on this entire green piece and then just a little bit on the actual carrot itself. We want that to sit right about there because he's going to be kind of holding it with his cute little furry hands. So get plenty of glue on there. If you're using glitter like we are, which you don't have to, but if you are, you have to be a little more patient with it. All right, so right about there. Get that nice and centered, nice and aligned. Make sure that it's got a nice vertical orientation, so the carrot's not like sideways. There we go. Let's see if I went a little too low on the glue. I did not, so that worked out beautifully. Okay. Let's see here. Let's do his, well, let's put him on real quick, see what we have so far. Okay, we've got that. That's what we have up to this point. Looks kind of weird right now, but it'll come together. Okay, so be careful with that carrot there. Okay, so now what we can go ahead and do is, well, why don't we get his arms in place? Okay, so the idea is to have him holding the carrot. Okay, so that's kind of what it's going to look like. We want his hands on the carrot. Okay, I kind of decided that when I was going to do this project that I was going to take and give the arms a little bit of a train with a dowel, just so that it's not flat. Okay, we're going to just ever so slightly give it a little bit of a curve. Okay, and again, you want to make sure, and I'm actually going to get my foam squares out. I'm also going to get my Zots out. Okay, so the foam square, I'm going to put one foam square on his little hand. Okay, and you can do foam squares on both sides if you want. I'm just doing it on this side for now. And then I'm going to put a Zot on the back part of his hand. Let me clean off some of that. Actually, no. I'm going to use foam squares on both sides. I think that will work out nicely. Okay, you can actually hot glue this if you want. I don't like to use hot glue unless it's really, really, truly necessary. Okay, so let's start in the center here and position it and figure out how he's going to hold it. Okay, I think he's going to hold the carrot right about here. So I just ever so slightly push that down. I didn't press it down too much because if I want to fix it, I'll still be able to in a little bit here. And then I'm going to kind of bend this a little bit so there's more roundness to it. And I'm going to stick that like so. Okay, I think that kind of looks cool. And I'm going to try to repeat that evenly on the other side as well. So let me grab his other arm and throw a foam square on one side, foam square on the hands, and peel that back. Did it come off? Oh yeah, there it is. Okay. And then just going to try to make this as symmetrical as possible. Okay, there he is holding the carrot. And I'm going to bend this in a little bit to create a nice curve. Try to adjust the height so that it looks pretty symmetrical. And just press that down. Okay, so there he is holding his little carrot. Okay, and that just leaves our, put our ears in place, may as well. Get our ears in place. Now the points of the ears are going to point out like this. So this one's going to go on this side of his head. So what you want to do is take these little tabs that we have left over from our assembly, slide them through both of the slots there, all the way through. Feed them all the way through. And then you're going to separate them and spread them and glue them to, here, let me see if I can show you that a little bit better here. Hold on. I still got to poke this through a little more. Okay, so you can see little tabs in there. There were two, one on each side. We're going to spread them out and glue them to the inside to make the ear stick. So I'm just going to throw a little glue on each side of the tab there. And then I'm going to press and hold that down to get that to stick. Okay, try not to bend too much of the paper there. I'm just pressing that up against the paper on the inside and gluing it to the inner wall there, like that. I think it kind of helps to hold the ear here, and then put two fingers on, one on each of the tabs in there, and just kind of just push the tabs up against the inner part of the lid here to get those tabs to stick to the inside of the lid. And you have to be, I have to be especially patient right now because my tabs are made of glitter. So if you're not using glitter, I think this will go a lot easier for you. It's a little bit, just requires a little bit more patience on my part because I am using glitter. but that worked out nicely, and my ears are looking pretty good here. Okay, so we're going to repeat that process on the other side. Let me just put him down for a second. That looks cute. Okay, so I'm going to slide these ears through these slots here. Kind of helps to kind of maybe move it up and down as you slide it in. I think the glitter is kind of giving me a little bit of resistance with all the friction there. But again, I'm going to put glue on each side here, and then I'm going to split those tabs and spread them apart and adhere them to the inside. Okay, so hold the ear as you split those tabs and spread them out. You can go ahead and let's see. Let's put our tail on. Okay, now the tail. Let me just put him off to the side for a sec. Tail's going to go right on the back, and it's going to be just flush with the bottom. You can kind of glue it onto the bottom so it kind of sticks out a little bit. So what I'm going to do, make sure you find the back, add a little bit of glue right to the bottom there, like that. And glue your tail on. Just make sure you get it nice and centered, like that. Kind of looking at that center scallop, or that center scalloped circle, just to make sure that that's all nice and lined up with the back. Just press and hold for a second. Make sure you've got it nice and aligned. It's got a cute little butt. I'm going to put that down on my table and add a little pressure from the inside. Get that to really stick. There we go. Okay, so there's our bunny's cute little butt. There's the front. Let's take a look here. Let's put that on like so. There's his little tail. Okay, so now we may as well get our little butterfly in place. So we've already got this thing put together. We're going to slide the little wire through this little hexagon piece. And again, if you want, you can use some hot glue. I think that as long as this piece gets glued on nicely onto the top there, that it will sandwich it in there, and then whatever glues around it will also kind of hold it in place. Okay, so let's pop that in place. Okay, so all that's left at this point is to add our little bow. So we can take our little bow and adhere it to pretty much right about here, kind of covering up the little wire that's coming off of that little hexagon up there. So I am going to use a little pop dot for that, actually. That's going to give it a little bit of dimension as well and allow me to glue that and place it pretty much anywhere. Okay, so let's just pop that right on there. I think that's cute, right between his little ears. Okay, there we go. But I'm going to actually give this a little bit of a curve. Okay, because I want the feet to kind of not be sticking out so much. I want them to kind of wrap around the base a little bit. And this is set. This has been set for quite some time now, so I can get away with kind of forming it more now that the glue is really bonded. There we go. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and use some pop dots here. I'm going to grab my first pop dot and put it on the bottom. of each of his little feet. And then we're gonna put one, let's see here. Let's just put his first foot. Actually, this foot should go this way. And you you want this little piece here to be visible. Okay, so we're just gonna put this foot about here. And you want to get it up enough to where it's not preventing this thing from sitting flat. Okay, so let's do that. And then let's do that right about there. Okay, let's take a look at how that looks overall. I think that looks super cute, and maybe could possibly throw another little foam square or pop dot right in this area here behind this middle toe, just so that it doesn't move around as much. But there's your little Easter bunny egg box. It's weird how much like a bunny he looks, actually. So I hope you guys enjoyed making our little bunny as much as I did, and I hope that yours came out just as beautiful as mine did. If it did, I'd love if you shared a photo in the official Dreaming Tree group on Facebook. Just use the little search bar at the top and type in Dreaming Tree group. Would love to see what you've done with this project. And again, if you enjoyed this tutorial, please take a second to hit that subscribe button on our YouTube page. And as always, I look forward to crafting with you again.
Stay on top of all things Dreaming Tree and engage with us today. Get the latest news and enter in our giveaways on Facebook. Get inspired by following us on Pinterest. Be the first to see our new product launches on Instagram. Do you prefer Twitter? Yep, we're there too. Watch our beautiful product trailers and assembly tutorials on YouTube. For more information, visit www.3dsvg.com. Live, craft, love, and dream.